Hello world, Zai'nyy coach back at it again, continuing this intense purification push. There is quite a lot to it. I'll try to do this a little tighter than the last one, trying to be conscious of people's time, but I can make no promises as there is quite a lot to go over. All right, so let's get right to it. I'm going to organize this one like I did the last one, the Zai'nyy female purification updates, based on kind of like the level of impact they had for me. And then I'll treat it like a ride, and we'll do a pre-ride and a post-ride. Okay, so pre-ride. One big thing, overall theme is mind jobbing. The Zai'nyy, we know, share a lot of ground with the Zai'nyy when it comes to studying psychology, transhumanism, consciousness, things, psychedelic experience, a lot of things like that. And I knew that, but one I didn't associate quite so much because I think obviously lack of experience, but also conceptually thinking of the adaptive innate nature in a certain way that precluded mind jobbing, or it didn't seem as readily associated to me in my conceptualization. And it isn't, I mean, it's true that the Zai'nyy do that less than the Zai'nyy. Zai'nyy do that a lot more. But there is a significant riff of Zai'nyy that do mind jobbing. That is something they also do. So not only the weighing, and which they do wonderfully, and the explaining, and the balancing and correcting, and the chiropractic, all those things that we know Zai'nyy really are very strong at, and there is good crossover with the Zai'nyy there. Also the mind jobbing, which brings up another element. In fact, maybe I should have mentioned this one first as the umbrella, but that is that dominant. There is riffs of Zai'nyy that are very dominant. And I remember I had a sort of breakthrough big with this with the Zai'nyy Alpha, where I thought that they were Zai'nyy way back in the day. And I was realizing, like, no, these are salty street version Zai'nyy Alpha. And then I realized that, and I was like, oh, okay. And I had done that some with the Zai'nyy, but I don't think there are areas that are very deep to me. And I had not gotten there yet, but I've gotten here now. And when it happened, it just like the Zai'nyy ladies, when that clicked, that I was making that error, which was a deep one in me, and I've been going for a long time trying to get to this data bedrock within myself and the data, there was this release. So I know this is intense because we just had a big release last week, a updating, so there's still that quasi state, but I feel we should just go ahead and continue and complete this journey if you're up for it this week, and next week we'll do Z9 males. So this is going to be another intense one. And the theme overall, I don't know if it's the overall theme, but it's a big theme, is dominant. And my mistaking, for example, salty imperiousness. Salty imperiousness can, and control. Yes, imperiousness and control freak. Imperiousness and control freak, but if you give a little bit of salt, a little bit of edge, a little bit of street, a little bit of funk or whatever, it can do a lot of maneuvers, very high level, that you would associate with directives. And again, this is an ongoing thing of misreading maneuvers for the instrument making the maneuvers, and how you have to always watch out for that, but particularly cases that are the most important to you. That is a theme in this work and really any kind of work as a seeker. Some things that go along with that is a irritableness. In fact, there is a famous comedian, which I'll get to later, on the ride, on the quasi-death ride. But the using of irritability in comedy, and he said in an interview that he felt a lot of comedians have this, they are born irritated when they wake up. They wake up each day and they're just irritated, and they note these things that irritate them, and they do so in a way that's funny. But it comes from that predisposition to notice things out of balance. And I think that irritability can be very much, seen maneuver-wise very strongly with dissatisfaction. You wake up and you're sort of angsty. So it's sort of anxiousness and irritability, and really those are just words, so maybe they're both anxious and irritable. I mean, but one's doing a Zai'nyy way, one's doing a Zai'nyy way. And also, I'd say really Zai'nyy Alpha. There was a lot for me in this, in separating Zai'nyy Alpha from Zai'nyy that are more of this imperious dominant riff, a control freak. Also, another element is Svengali, sort of playing the guru, which goes back to the mind jolly. Mind jolly is more offense. This is more of in a healing capacity, but a healing capacity very much as a teacher, as an instructor, as a shamanic, not just a shamanic healer, but a shamanic guide, particularly guiding people on a journey. And the sort of spells of hypnosis, hypnotic spells that Zai'nyy are known for. The Zai'nyy can also do that quite well, and in ways that when they're doing it, it takes on a in control, like a in control composer or something of that nature, element that can be thought of like, am I seeing a hunter? But no, this is actually a tower doing wonderful work. Another theme with that is something that I think I let weigh on me too heavily, or I didn't look through it sufficiently, is a heaviness about the eyes. There is a strong riff, and a lot of the ones I'll be talking about today, where they have heavy eyes, darkness around the eyes, things like that. There's like a heavy, a weariness, I've seen some shit, man. You know what I mean? Life's gnarly. I've been there and seen it, and I'm going to see some more. It just has that sort of heaviness. And so that's been one I had to really watch, is like seeing dancing eyes and a unflappable tower with this haunted quality. Yeah, hauntedness. Yeah, Zai'nyy with hauntedness, I was thinking were Zai'nyy Alpha in many cases. Going another direction, there is soft-facedness. Zai'nyy some are just born like that. But there just is, sometimes in age it can be increasing, but in general, just some of them have more of a looser, pouchier face. Not in a good way or a bad way, just it's different looking. But when it comes to reading their qualia, it covers the bones and the fine fascia muscles underneath it that are moving it. It kind of slackens and drops the lines a bit, and that can take some doing. Around the jaw, over the cheek, kind of cheek cliffs, the eyebrow cliffs. Yeah, a lot of cliffs of the face. They get a bit more of a rounded or pouchy or droopy. It can be different ways, but it's softer. It's a softer face. That's one that not always, but I was sometimes thinking I was seeing Zai'nyy. I think also still make mistakes with Zai'nyy Alpha, but Zai'nyy I think happened a lot there when it was that soft face. Something else going along with that is the naivete, the innocence I associated with Zai. There's a very strong correlation to that with Zai. I don't know if we will need to just even go with like warm innocence and cool innocence. A warm naivete, a cool naivete. Sometimes the language may fail. We may simply need to bring those mathematical distinctive adjectives into the equation. But anyway, there were comedians and actors and so forth that have an innocence, a naivete, a tremulousness. I'd gotten here through, I mentioned comedians, where I saw this riff of Zai'nyy comedians doing like the whoa, like tremulous Zai tower, the flappable tower, so unflappable made flappable, that comedy. But now I'm seeing even more that it can do things I was associating with Zai. Particularly, again, this gets into the danger of words. They're helpful to an extent, but they can be confusing. Is innocence, something about, Zai being tactical. It didn't seem like it could also be innocent, but it can, and it very effectively in both acting and comedy and music. Going back to some Zai'nyy mistake areas is the BAM, the bearded angry man. I'm going to actually just say there's a larger category like the bearded artsy man. Yeah, bearded artsy man. And bearded angry man is under that. But going back with the sort of surliness or irritability thing, you have that riff. There's also a riff that's separate, but especially when it crosses over, like doubles up, where they're also doing the bearded artsy man thing, can really, if your mind is in any way vulnerable at that moment for a cliche, to get in there instead of observation, so your brain takes that easier, sugar cookie instead of the actual meal it's supposed to be having of, seeing, oh, that's a Zai'nyy that maybe is sort of feral and artsy in a kind of rebellious or antisocial kind of way. Not just dispassionate, but sort of like, fuck off world, like, a bit of a preemptive F you, or a preemptive no thank you. But I didn't even ask you. Yeah, I'm telling you no thanks in advance. So yeah, an energy of no thank you world in advance. I'm going to tell you before you even do anything because I've seen how you are. No. But no, just no. When you look at me, no. The answer is no. But I didn't even know. So that plus beard, I was confusing some of that as well. Again, with the dangers of words, obviously they're helpful. We wouldn't have gotten here with it, and I wouldn't be able to teach you all without words. I have to use the visuals and the words. We have a language both ways. But the words are, when it comes to the data, it's a question of just getting deeper to it. But the data is always the data. It's very, very firm in that way. Language is a lot more squiggly. All right, so the word sour. Kind of sweet and sour is something that in my mind I found easier to associate with Zai'nyy, although obviously you could easily associate that with Xi, and really you could associate that with other logic-based sermons too, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, just words are always trying to capture. So I'm still going to keep using words, but I'm going to keep trying to improve them. And fortunately, I have people in our community who are also very keen on trying to understand the actual phenomenon and then keep making better language to try to touch, to map out that language, to map out that phenomenon, the language for it. There is a riff of Zai'nyy that I was calling like sourpuss. And it's weird, like you're looking at the data and I'd see that sample and one of the things that would jump out is sourpuss. But there are Zai'nyy who are doing sourpuss. But when I would think sour, I would think like Zai'nyy, hangdog, kind of sour. But this is a different kind of sour, but the word sour made me think Zai, particularly like Zai of a Zai'nyy or something. To give an example, I would say probably the biggest one is Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr, I thought, was a Zai'nyy. I always knew that he was logic-based. He stood out from the other Beatles that way. But I thought that was Zai'nyy, and he has some imperiousness, some surly, some rebel, kind of thing going on there. Some people say sourpuss. Like I actually heard people saying, like in forums, stuff where like, oh, he's a sourpuss. I love his sourpuss. Some people are like, he's too much of a sourpuss. They'd be like, no, he's a rock god sourpuss. But that word got thrown around, and also to me, I think I also was like, yeah, he kind of looks like a sourpuss. But that doesn't mean Zai sour. So Ringo Starr, Zai'nyy, there's a little teaser for you. Start teasing here a little bit. Another one, I've mentioned this in the past, but I'm seeing it even more so, is sometimes when the Zai'nyy get buff. One that kind of just gives them an overall more aggressive look. And also it does tend to, this does add a significant challenge, like toughen up, roughen up, thicken up the fingers. And when Zai'nyy have those crystalline gestures that they have, when there's not been like a weight gain, or there's not been like say they've gotten overweight or something, or like working out to where a lot of the tendons and things around their fingers have been thickened and so forth. Without that, the fingers and the gesturing of the Zai'nyy is a really great way to dial in. They really kind of pop out. They're magical and captivating. But by the way, I'm not saying Zai'nyy should not lift weights. I'm just saying that when that is done to a significant degree, sometimes it can thicken the hands to where some of those distinct things are harder to see. But that's the same thing, like when Tom Hardy gets all buffed up, I mean, playing Zai'nyy, he's played Zai'nyy a couple times, it makes it hard to see he's an IG. So it's the same thing here. But it doesn't mean it's a bad thing as far as like a peak pathway thing. It just does add a significant challenge for, reading their qualia. An example of that is Eric Balfour. Eric Balfour had down as an IG, he is Zai'nyy. Another theme on the reading is wide cheeks. And so really dialing in on what it means to be localized, even in a face, because normally I think like localized for I'm suspecting it's a tower. Localized, but not with a broad face like a Zai'nyy or something, but a long face. But there are broad-faced ones. And a few examples are Aziz Ansari. He really gave me the hardest time. I kept trying to go back and forth between Ni Alpha. Neither one of them felt right, and I couldn't figure why I couldn't settle in on it. But then eventually I through other ones, realized he has a very broad face and big eyes, but a Zai'nyy. As is Xavier de Rosnay, a music artist. In fact, actually, because I didn't have much of an association with him, he helped me get Aziz easier. And then Steve Harvey. Oh, his big head has been giving me a fit, but I believe now I've seen more big-headed Zai'nyy, and I believe Steve Harvey is a big-headed Zai'nyy. on the how much difference weight gain can change things and really up the challenge. A case that was super hard is Phil Spector. Wall of Sound, Phil Spector, I believe is a Zai'nyy. I was trying to figure out what he was. I was trying to think, is he a Zai'nyy? Is he a Zai'nyy? What is going on there? Because he also had the haunted quality and the dominant quality going on very strongly. But he has significant changes in weight. So a little fun experiment if you want to do is like try and like see that Zai'nyy element. Look at what makes Phil Spector that you can recognize. Yes, that's Phil Spector. And then see him in different pictures, because he goes from like skeletal to obese. He's and degrees in between. So kind of look at that and you're like, yeah, there is part of him, that's him, that does stay consistent throughout those dramatic body changes. Another one is the very big use of Zai'nyy. Some style riffs of Zai'nyy, they put the Zai'nyy on all the time, like they never take it off, like Gilbert Gottfried, in sort of like a manic way. Or some of them, I can't think of one right now, but there's a couple of them where they're like in a good mood and they're just projecting, I'm in a good mood, I'm happy to be here, I am, your friendly teammate, and they exude that the whole time. It's really quite wonderful, but it can, again, make a challenge for not seeing that maybe they're Zai'nyy or something. I mentioned sort of being rebellious in general and also being a guru, but there's kind of a combo there going on that I think is worth mentioning on its own, which is being like a punk, being a professional punk, a agitator against the status quo. So not just rebellious, like I want to do my own thing and leave me alone, but actually purposefully being provocative, getting in the way, causing a lot of noise, being chaotic. And this is another one, like a connection to the Zai'nyy. Zai'nyy have where they go wild. Zai'nyy have a wild. So I guess you have warm wild and cool wild, but sometimes the cool wild almost feels like punk rock or like chaos, anarchy. And I do know that actually the Zai'nyy, we mentioned they're strong in the atheist community and skeptic community, but the anarchist community, for example, also seems to have a strong presence of them. I don't know if that directly relates to this, but perhaps it does. Going along with that is a very effective, talk about maneuvers. You have to like, whoa, this is a maneuver. The Zai'nyy do super well. It's clearly obvious that the public loves it, and it's like their magnum. They do like this snarl. I can't even do it because I'm not a Zai'nyy, but I'll just give you like a tease of that. You got Billy Idol, Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols. I think probably Johnny Rotten too, but definitely Sid Vicious, his sneer, Billy Idol's sneer, and there'll be a few others when we get to the music part of this, where this punk rock, chaos, let chaos reign kind of thing, just party to everything turns into rubble kind of attitude. There's often this maneuver of like this sneer, and people love it, and they're like, yeah! So rock on, rock gods. Alrighty, so that was the pre-ride. Let's get into the ride itself. We'll again start small, build up from there. First up, we knew that there were some people in fashion. Alexander Wang, though, is one, I am sure exactly why, but for some reason he was striking me more as a Zai'nyy, although I knew Zai'nyy were strong in there, but we'll have to look more into that. But anyway, Alexander Wang, I believe, is a Zai'nyy. Now that I've seen a lot of other models and actors and comedians and music artists that I didn't realize were Zai'nyy, when I looked at him, I was like, oh, no, he's definitely Zai'nyy. But at one point, I thought something else. Another element is sort of, I don't say feral, but just sort of like rough and tumble Zai'nyy. I was mistaking for Zai'nyy in most cases. A big example of that is Parker Schnabel. Parker Schnabel from Gold Rush is a Zai'nyy, and he's out there, doing real physical labor and having a lot of intense interactions with his crew and, rivalries and things get, drama. He has to handle it. So very rough and tumble, leadership role and so forth. That is a Zai'nyy. And that was a lot easier to see. Actually, I forget who it was. It was a while back. There's some guy out in the woods that like does gunsmithing or whatever, and we thought he was an IG, and I was like, no, he's actually a Zai'nyy. I realized after a while, something about that helped me crack this case. This one surprised me, this next one, but I guess maybe it shouldn't, in that, or I guess two things kind of let me know that something was probably going to be coming here at some point, is most of the organized crime people, Zai'nyy. And the few that I've seen that aren't so far, I think there might be one or two Zai'nyy. And both those two, in the other bubbles, they tend to hang out with Zai'nyy. And so we do have our first Zai'nyy in organized crime, although the first criminal was Jeffrey Dahmer that I realized, oh, that's a Zai'nyy. So Jeffrey Dahmer knew that, but I didn't know they were doing organized crime. But if you have Jeffrey Dahmer already, and you have a lot of Zai'nyy organized crimes, criminals, it doesn't, that's not very counterintuitive, so that's cool. But anyway, this is Henry Hill. Henry Hill, played by Zai'nyy Ray Liotta in Goodfellas. So I'd like to see that get that remade and have that cast with an actual Zai'nyy. I knew that there was some Zai'nyy in visual art once I found out that Andy Warhol was a Zai'nyy. Then I realized, oh, that's there. So a few more is Vito Acconci and Cristo. Both those are Zai'nyy. Cooking, as far as males, still seems like that's mainly a Vijay and Zai'nyy thing, and I think there's a small element of Zai'nyy. There's also a small element of Zai'nyy. Before I thought we had like just one or two, but maybe bigger than that, because also Anthony Bourdain and his friend Eric Ripert, they are both Zai'nyy. Directors, I knew that there were some in there. We started to kind of feel that out, the Coen brothers and so forth. But two that slipped by me are Spike Lee and Woody Allen. So again, once I realized what I was looking at, I don't think it was necessarily that hard, but just who they were, the kind of work they've done, and how impactful it has been to me in my life. I was like, oh, okay. I don't think I was seeing clearly from a fifth gear state, but Woody Allen's a little tougher, especially as he's older. He's got a very maestro kind of thing going on. What helped me with him is I knew he was bothering me, and Jarlene said I should take a look at him. I knew I should, but I just kept looking at him and couldn't see it. And so what I did was I purposely went and found video and pictures that I hadn't from him before. And to do that, I went and got the youngest stuff I could, black and white stuff, him doing stand-up and things like that. And when I saw him there, I was seeing him for the first time. And when I did, I was like, he riffs of so many Zai'nyy stand-up comedians. And then the spell was broken. And then I was able to look. And that's interesting because sometimes I talk about improving my lens or coming at things a certain way over long time frames. But a lot of times you can do certain things that are short time frame, because that was actually within like a couple days. And I knew I needed to look at it, but it was challenging. And then I was like, I could feel that it's there, something I need to see, but there's too much fog. I can feel there's too much fog here. I have too much attachment fog. So I needed to come another way. And I did. I basically just thought of like, how should I do that? And like a day later when I decided to do that, boom, got it, and I figured it out. Public intellectuals, particularly ones that I think do a lot of debating. I knew Zai'nyy did a lot of debate, but there is a style of doing it that is, I don't know, maybe more take charge professor than I was imagining. So a few of those are Dinesh D'Souza, thought he was Zai'nyy. Larry King, thought he was Zai'nyy. Foucault, thought he was Zai'nyy. Noam Chomsky, thought he was Zai'nyy. And, wait for it, Mohandas Gandhi. Yep, everyone thinks that that's going to be an Zai'nyy. I thought it was going to be an Zai'nyy, but no, that is a Zai'nyy. In fact, I knew a while ago that his wife was Zai'nyy, but I thought it was one of those Zai'nyy power couples that does happen. Like, was it Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela? I took another look there. Nelson still looks Zai'nyy to me. Just like Clinton, I took a look at Clinton too. So Bill Clinton, he's Zai'nyy with Zai'nyy, and Mandela does that too. So I thought this was the same thing, but nope, that is straight up Zai'nyy. David Karp, the founder of Tumblr, is also a Zai'nyy. I knew the Zai'nyy got into cutting edge fields, but it didn't seem as much as they're doing it on the initial creation phase, but that does apparently happen indeed. Next up, this gets bigger, comedy. That's something that is very near and dear to my heart. It kept me company a lot. So I mentioned at last filming that Zai'nyy ladies over the years through media have kept me company quite a bit. Apparently in my own Podlair community, I didn't even realize it. But yeah, so that was going on. But also Zai'nyy. And so Zai'nyy comedians, very much so. So Chris Rock, Zai'nyy. Jerry Seinfeld, Zai'nyy. Dave Chappelle, Zai'nyy. Oh my goodness. Letterman, Zai'nyy. Monty Python. All four, there were 6 of them total. The 2 that I thought were Zai, still Zai. But the 4 that I thought were Z, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Graham Chapman, and Michael Palin. All 4 of them are Zai'nyy. That was really tough. That was one of the toughest ones for me to see. But their style just kept being more and more reminiscent of these Zai'nyy comedians I didn't know at all. And when I looked at them, I had no vested interest in them. There's Zai'nyy. But then after I would do it, it was like, he looks a little bit like some of the Monty Python people. So, bam. Howard Stern. So, he has some of those elements of being more dominant, being sort of abrasive, rebellious, punk rocker, F the system, things like that. A few more. Aziz Ansari, you saw him already. Gilbert Gottfried. George Burns. I thought George and Gracie Burns were Nunez. They are Zai'nyy. Christopher Guest and Bill Hader. Doctor Who. Again here, I knew there were a lot of Zai'nyy, but two of them I thought were Zai'nyy. One is Christopher Eccleston. I really enjoy him as my favorite actors. And William Hartnell. And both of them had one of the most serious, imperious in some ways, interpretations of the Doctor Who character. And I mistook that for Zai'nyy. But Zai'nyy. Ian McKellen. That is correct. Gandalf and Magneto are Zai'nyy. Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is Zai'nyy. He tends to play a lot in gangster movies. Actually, I don't know which one I got first, but they came together for me in my mind. It's Henry Hill. At the same time I figured out Henry Hill was a Zai'nyy, I figured out that Steve Buscemi was a Zai'nyy. Interesting factoid, I'm not sure what this means because it's small, but it is interesting, is Steve Buscemi and William H. Macy are both known, both being great actors, but also dying. They die a lot in their movies, and directors seem to have fun killing them, and they themselves seem to have no problem enjoy the variety of pain inflicted on them and death. And there is that in Zai'nyy comedy, but they tend to do it often in drama, but sometimes actually being like this cosmic punching bag quality that sometimes comes out heavily in their comedy can be done in a very dramatic way. Crispin Glover is Zai'nyy. Crispin Glover, the scene where he just got a little too intense on David Letterman, I let that influence me too much. He seemed so keen on making his point because there's different kinds of HSP, and I knew Zai'nyy have a lot of HSP. I have a good familiarity with that HSP. And you see it in a lot of the other interviews, when I watched more and more interviews of Crispin Glover, where he's sort of fidgeting around the chair, can't sit still, twitching, nervous, you know what I mean? Kind of touching things just to try to comfort himself. But in the David Letterman, the most famous one, he got rather intense in what could be construed as an aggressive way. And I'm familiar with Najee's nervousness being like that, and so I let that move me overly. Desmond Llewellyn. Desmond Llewellyn, I think I read him way back in the day. He's a hard sample because he's older. There's not much good lower media, except there are some pictures, and my picture reading skills have gained tremendously since when I initially read him. And then I think also at the time when I read him, I didn't really have as good of understanding nearly of how the cerebrals interact in acting and comedy and music and so forth. And so I think because so much of the cast in say James Bond has often been Naizi males and Nizai ladies, makes up a lot of the cast. Just kind of lumped him in with there. So that was just lazy on my part. Well, unawareness, but I knew he was a very challenging sample, and I probably should have put more effort into him, and actually probably should have put him on the side. And I'll do that more going forward, although I think I've populated the sample surfer with most of the people that were ever relevant to me coming up till now. But there may be others in the future. I'm sure there'll be things that are just really big, and I'll know I need to set that aside for a while. I need some time to bake. Burgess Meredith. Burgess Meredith is a Zai'nyy, so the trainer of Rocky is a Zai'nyy. Alexander Siddig is a Zai'nyy, and so again, I thought I was seeing Nunez with him and the actress who plays Kira. They got, I think, married, had a child together, and so forth. And I projected, I think, heavily onto that relationship, both on screen and also the fact that they had a significant one off screen. They didn't stay together, but still they had a significant kind of love affair. And yeah, I just wasn't used to seeing, I think, more her. I projected more onto her, and because I wasn't used to seeing Zai'nyy like that. I think with him, To be honest, once I projected so hard on the actress playing Kira being a Zai'nyy when she wasn't, yeah, I was not set up well to get his, because you know, my misread of her combined with I really wanted them to be inspirational. Yeah, Ian McDiarmid. That name may not be super familiar, but his voice is, and his visage. Yes, his visage. I think that's the right way to say it when we talk about this guy. He played the second Emperor in the Star Wars series, Emperor Palpatine. So he's the one that gave it the more, you know, sepulchral voice, very heavy with a lot of gravitas. Increasing the Zai'nyy villainy from Star Wars is Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing, who also played, by a lot of people's estimation, one of the better Sherlock Holmes interpretations back in the day. He was also the general in Star Wars, one of the earliest ones. So I think probably Star Wars 1. So Peter Cushing, Zai'nyy, and then also Zai'nyy is James Prowse. James Prowse is inside Darth Vader. He's the guy in the suit. And then the voice is Zai'nyy, James Earl Jones. So, intriguing. On the English actor thing, once I realized that Ian McKellen was Zai'nyy, then John Gielgud and Peter O'Toole, I was like, that made sense right away. Actually, Peter Cushing as well. Peter Cushing, Ian McKellen, and Peter O'Toole, those all had a similar riff. Now, actually, when that happened, I think some people may even see me doing this. I was figuring this case out, and I thought that Christopher Lee might also be Zai'nyy because he is similar that way. But no, I've looked at Christopher Lee, and I believe he's still a Zai'nyy. I think I put him as requested just because I want to look at him again. But that's a good distinction because, you know, once there was one wizard from Lord of the Rings that was Zai'nyy, I was like, is the other one a Zai'nyy too? But no, I think he might still be Zai'nyy. And then the same thing happened actually with comedy. When I realized Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle are Zai'nyy, I gave a hard look to Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. But I believe they're both still Zai'nyy. So that might be a good way to kind of compare and contrast, say, you know, street, urban, comedian Zai'nyy, also all African American, where two of them, Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, are Zai'nyy, and Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor are Zai'nyy. Ahmed Best is Zai'nyy. Ahmed Best is the voice for Jar Jar Binks, so sorry about that. Frank Langella, he often plays in spy movies and thrillers and things of that nature, and usually be kind of very hard and serious. And so a lot of the more fun, flamboyance, things like that a lot of Zai'nyy show in their roles and are awesome at, he doesn't do as much, but he has a very strong kind of psychological, mind-jobby gravitas to him. Leonard Nimoy, Zachary Quinto, and Tim Russ are all Zai'nyy. So this is definitely a phenomenon, and people are already doing it to some degree in certain areas, so we can train that muscle to, you know, work off the best data and best, you know, skill set training there is. But these casting directors, they don't have this all figured out, obviously, but they knew what they wanted. They knew that better than me. They knew they wanted Zai'nyy for that role, and those casting directors got Zai'nyy each time. Although I was like, is it an IZ? Is it a Zai'nyy? I was like, you know, going back and forth and that kind of stuff, and they're like, nope, it's a Zai'nyy. So, good job for them. Noah Taylor is Zai'nyy, and he played Hitler twice now. He's played Hitler kind of seriously in an earlier role, and then now in the show Preacher, he's playing a more comedic, in some ways, take on the Hitler character. Isaac Hempstead Wright. That is correct. The Three-Eyed Crow brand is Zai'nyy. Finishing out acting here, I just thought I'd do a little special mention is, we've known for a while now that Zai'nyy and Zai'nyy can both play, you know, wickedly, devilishly delightful and awesome villains. But there is a riff of them that's a little harder, and I didn't see it quite as readily. Frank Langella had a little bit of that, although he's more known as just a wonderful dramatic actor in general. But Billy Drago, Michael Wincock, Jackie Earle Haley, Jack Gleason, all of them are Zai'nyy, and I thought they were Zai'nyy Alpha. Something to mention also is we talked about the Zai'nyy having wonderful voices, radio voices. The Zai'nyy also have amazing voices. Obviously, you'll see in music coming up here in a moment. But in their villainy, particularly Billy Drago and Michael Wincott, they're known for these voices. Like when they can take any role that you need a villain, and he comes in and uses that voice, and that is it. You're awesome. And Jackie Earle Haley, he played, yeah, he was also voice heavy too, because a mask on the whole time. He played Rorschach in Watchmen, plus a bunch of other stuff. He's in Preacher too. And Jack Gleason, not sure about his voice as much, but everyone did love to hate him. He is Joffrey. Joffrey from Game of Thrones. The acting bubble, pretty intense. That's very heavy. As you guys know, I liked watch a lot of movies. Movies kept me company, movies and TV shows and stand-up comedians and so forth. But we're about to get deeper still. That's right, comic books. Stan, the motherfucking man, Lee, is a Zai'nyy. So okay, this now means we have to have a Spider-Man where Spider-Man is cast as a Zai'nyy. I have to see it now. I must see that. That's a must-have. Side note, this may not mean anything, but I did pull Vincent Price. I still can't figure out what Vincent Price is. I thought he was an IG, but now I'm wondering if he's a Zai'nyy, and I'm still not sure, so I pulled him. But Doctor Strange was apparently modeled in a lot of ways off of the style and look of Vincent Price. Possible Zai'nyy. The creator of Spawn, something McFarlane, I forget his first name, but anyway, he's a Zai'nyy as well. Once I got Stan Lee, he was easy. Neil Gaiman, the creator of Sandman, is Zai'nyy. Again, I projected what I thought was a Najez story. So he's Zai'nyy. He's married to what I thought was Nijai, Amanda Palmer, but I believe Amanda Palmer is a Zai'nyy. So that's another Zai'nyy lady update there. So I believe the two of them are in a Zai'nyy relationship. Don Bluth. Don Bluth did Dragon's Lair, the video game animator, and I spent many a quarter playing Dragon's Lair and pretending that the rest of existence didn't exist. And now for the final biggest bubble, music. David Bowie, Zai'nyy. So much good music from David Bowie, but also the movie Labyrinth. I watched Labyrinth a gazillion times. What? Seriously, yeah. Prince is a Zai'nyy. So Purple Rain, Zai'nyy. Rod Stewart, Zai'nyy. Freddie Mercury. Bill Conti. Do you know how many times in life I've actually been like, I didn't think I could go on anymore, but I knew I had to, and so I motivated myself by like trying to find books or media or something to help me get inspired to keep going. That song, really, Tom Conti's been in several things that I really enjoyed. A Prayer for the Dying had a great soundtrack too. But that Rocky soundtrack, man, that got me up so many times when I was like, I do not want to get up anymore. I don't want to get any more, but I know I have to. If that doesn't get another round out of you, seriously, check your pulse. You're already dead. That's fucking legend. That's legend. Mick Fleetwood, Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. So all of the Rolling Stones are Zai'nyy. And I did check the Beatles again. I believe the Beatles are still 3 Najee and a Zai'nyy. And then the Rolling Stones, all Zai'nyy. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry are Zai'nyy from Aerosmith. Interesting there. They're both Zai'nyy, but I actually made two different mistakes there. I took the kind of pouty, I do whatever I want to wildness of the lead singer, Steven Tyler. I thought he was a Zai'nyy because of that. And then the guitarist, Joe Perry, he has more of like a severe, don't talk to me kind of energy or persona about him, and I thought he was a Najee. So that's, I don't know, sorry. Anyway, that's an interesting mistake I made. Tom Petty, oh, another one. Yeah, so many good songs. That's crazy. So I'm really seeing how heavy the Zai'nyy influence has been in my life, and I'm truly grateful for it. Yeah, I knew that I did in certain areas, but I'm realizing there are people in my life that I thought maybe were Nyatha that I realized maybe Zai'nyy. And just Zai'nyy in general, like the Xena, I'm sure like a lot of like Mayim Bialik riff that I was thinking those were Nijai from my past, but they may have been Zai'nyy as well. Yeah, really cool. Joe Satriani, he's like a guitar kensei. And I haven't read him yet, but there's a chance that Steve Vai and those two are both those like guitar kenseis, Zai'nyy. RZA, actually I think him and there's another member of them as well that are Zai'nyy. That's an interesting group to look into because I think that group has a mixture of some centralists and some cerebrals. So that's interesting because I'm seeing some different groupings that go together, and that's going to make actually studying. It was already going to be fascinating anyway, but even more so now that I realize there's more of a diversity than I'd seen originally. But studying collaboration histories of different songs to kind of see which alchemies made it, that'd be really kind of fascinating. Tony Bennett and Michael Bolton. So both those are Zai'nyy, so it makes sense why Lady Gaga had such an interest in working with both of them. Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen is a Zai'nyy, and I really admire him a great deal. Two things that threw me there is sort of, I think the severe form of Buddhism he does. It's one of the more, intense mind-body connections, and you use certain challenges to elevate yourself. So it makes total sense now, but I was thinking that severity was a Zai'nyy, obviously not exclusive of that, but I let that weigh on me too much. The fact that he took so many timeouts. Again, I should have seen this coming because the Zai'nyy and Zai'nyy both like to do the monk thing. So he kind of did like the monk thing, and so that made me think, So yeah, I should have seen this one sooner, but I think, again, he was a really big deal to me. I've always had a tremendous respect for a lot of these ones I'm mentioning here. Say in the case of Leonard Cohen, what an artist he is. In that, not obviously the Mick Jagger and those aren't just incredible artists because they are, they're amazing, Prince, but in the way of, I don't need anything from the world. And he did his music in his way that made it difficult to market him in a popular sense. And he took time outs when that's not really helpful to your career. You just take significant time out to just go into monasteries or whatnot. So, yeah, I let the legend of him paint too much of a picture in my mind so that when I was trying to see the instrument, I got down to that Zai'nyy Zai'nyy combo and I made that in my head Zai'nyy. But no, I should have gone there, and yeah, there was something deeply calming about him, and I attributed that to the monk thing. So not that Zai'nyy can't be calming, but there is a kind of calming that is unique to the Zai'nyy, and it can have some more physically arduous. There's a physicality to the arduousness of the kind of Buddhism that Leonard Cohen did. And so the Zai'nyy I know are extremely hardcore, but there's an ideological or intellectual integrity quality that I was overemphasizing. I don't think it's wrong to emphasize it because you can look at the Zai'nyy careers and Zai'v careers and clearly there's something to it. But with several of these rock stars, their presence on stage, for example, Leonard Cohen and the kind of arduous physical challenges of the Buddhism, they're even like some of the visual artists and how they're painting on these big canvases and they're physically getting more into it. There's a physicality I wasn't connecting enough. So yeah, that's been important. And I can see now that has several tendrils because that relates to some of these rock artists. There was a bit of that there. It relates to some of the visual artists. It relates to Leonard Cohen, a music artist / poet, philosopher. On the physicality, for example, Peter Garrett, he's the lead singer for Midnight Oil. He's kind of known for when he was dancing and doing his thing like a savage, like a force of nature. And again, I knew Zai'nyy could be forces of nature, but I was seeing it more through writing, through music, through electronics, through different things, even singing to a degree where it's not so full body physical. So a full body physicality, Mick Jagger on stage, Freddie Mercury, Zai'nyy. Freddie Mercury is Zai'nyy. So is Chuck Berry. So is Sammy Davis Jr. Physical expression. Yes, physical expression of their art, of their philosophy. That is one I'm seeing a lot better, and I am amazed by. It's awesome because I thought that had to be V. That was a V prejudice I had. I didn't realize that a knee Vi mojo could quite have it that much. Because even like Zai'nyy are very physical in soccer, but still the just I am super present in my body in this moment element. That's not kind of associated with V, but clearly it can be done by any mojo if they are peaking in the way that comes up. And so for the Zai'nyy, very much so. It tends to have a lean, wiry quality to it, but physical. A lean, wiry physicality. Grandmaster Flash, Dave Haywood from Lady Antebellum, Maxi Jazz. So I have her pulled now. I thought that was again Najez, the lady. I think is it Miss Bliss or something. The band Faithful. Anyway, Maxi Jazz is Zai'nyy. I need to keep looking at her, but likely she's probably Zai'nyy. But because I'd actually already pulled her, I think, a while ago because she was hard for me and I wanted more media. So I think I put her as limited media. But now I think I have a better idea how to approach that case, and I see why it was so challenging for me before. I was trying to figure out. I was not accounting for the Zai'nyy nearly enough. Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes, Ike Turner, Alice Cooper, 2 Chainz, 21 Savage, A Boogie with a Hoodie, Eddie Rabbit, P&B Rock, Simon Raymond, Peter and Paul from Peter, Paul and Mary, that is Zanez. So Peter, Zai'nyy, Paul, Zai'nyy, Mary, Zai'nyy. Mike Edwards from Jesus Jones, Vince Clarke, Jarvis Cocker, Mick Jones from Foreigner, Lou Reed, Time Waits, Frank Zappa, Perry Farrell, Kenny G, Alex Karpanos from Franz Ferdinand, Jeff Keith from Tesla, Ninja, I mentioned that before with Dee Antwoord, Dave Perna from Soul Asylum, Tyler the Creator, Wiz Khalifa, and Peter Wolf from the Jay Giles Band, you know, My Angel is a Centerfold. That's awesome. So, yeah, blown away. This is so much of music that, as they say, hits you so deep. It really does. So there's so much memories that come from there. As I mentioned before, for me anyway, my memory is terrible, so I tend to have sort of like a visionary, impressionistic memory, and it is usually not heavily associated with the real world. Comic books, like if I watch shows now on YouTube about comic books, I can get these strong feelings, and I know kind of like where I was feeling, but I have no recollection of how that connects to the real world at all. Like what age I was at necessarily, you know, what was going on in my environment, my family, you know, cars, you know, politics, things like, no, it's more like emotional tones. Anyway, but comics, TV, movies, and comedy and music, so much influence, and the Zanez did a wonderful job of helping me of realize the mojo phenomenon, and actually really the mojo phenomenon, as people know from Pod Lair, that's just part of it. Really, they just helped me understand life, the human condition, and the meaning of existence. Just a little bit more before we end on music is composers. One is Philip Glass. There are several other ones like Howard Shore and John Williams. I don't know what they are yet. They may still be Zai'nyy. I can't tell yet. They are older. They have bigger bodies, pouchier faces, and they are legend. So all those things make them more challenging. So I will get to them, but I'll have to come back when my lens is even stronger, but it will be. I'm going to keep leveling up. So now post-ride. So those are big highlights. I recommend, obviously, that you go check out the sample server for a full canvassing of the Zai'nyy male and what we have for it at this time. This was a very deep purification, as was the last one. How deep? I mentioned areas that had major influence on me, deep into my childhood. But another one, on a more personal note even to just me, is my former bestie that I've mentioned over the years, and what a close friendship we had. I now am not so sure he was a Zai'nyy. He may still be, but I'm also wondering if he may not be a Zai'nyy now. So my best friend of many years from back in the day may have been a Zai'nyy, and I need more media than I currently have in order to be able to make that distinction. So again, like my mom, that's like a whoa to do that, but it feels better. I felt that loosening as I was making these realizations, and I felt the need for that loosening. I kept feeling myself touch back to that, and just my spirit saying, let that go, let that go, let that go. Another thing, as I mentioned before, is with words. Wizard. It's tricky because, yeah, you can really have, I think Demas mentioned something like this, where you could actually have any mojo where they could ably fulfill any four of the major slots you see in role-playing games. These, if you call like hunters and wizards and so forth, but really it's subjective directives. But really, any mojo can perform any of those functions, but then also any of those functions in certain ways, a lot, not always, but a lot of times they could cross over. Like you could have like a gatherer interpretation of a wizard. Clearly a tower, Ian McKellen, interpretation of a wizard, a hunter interpretation, a pilot interpretation. So there is the danger with words. Yeah, but the best thing to do then is just get the data as clean as possible, and then get the best words we can, and then keep expanding them. Because you do need to use words in some ways to communicate, otherwise you can't have certain upper-level discussion. But there's a danger in that upper-level discussion and connecting things through words that you're leaving the connection to the observable data. And that is something we have to constantly watch out for, and we will, and I'm glad that we have people in our community that are strong on that. Another thing, sort of conceptually, is overall the overlap between the Zai'nyy simulator and the Zai'nyy logical labyrinth, and how they can do a lot of similar things, and the world can react to them in similar ways, and the guardedness and protectiveness and sensitivity that the Zai'nyy and Zai'nyy feel to those, core processes also can have a lot of crossover. So that's basically all I have. I tried to go a lot faster as I could here. In the last one, I was, kind of just processing, but also my spirits wanted to convey how momentous this is for me. I believe I have conveyed that, and I hope that in this one, it is understood that this is a continuation of that. They are connected. They are a synergistic process for me. This has been intense, and the next week is also going to be intense. The Zai'nyy male, I'm seeing also influences on my life that I didn't realize before. And yeah, I'm glad you all are on this journey with me. And I know this is really, really intense, but it needs to be done because of the data, the strength of it, and the fact that it is falsifiable. My increased data collection and my increased skill set at understanding the data that I have has led to these corrections. So that's why we're here, and that's what is going to bring up next week's. But then I think we are going to be pretty good as far as this level, because I've been going deeper and deeper and deeper. And talking about my mom and my former best friend from for so many years back in the day. That's about as deep as it gets. I mean, we're talking, that's about as deep as it gets with me. So I'm sure there's other stuff out there, but I believe I've gone to the core of me and try to figure out influences that were there from the earliest and the strongest. And I believe I have done so to a good degree, although we still have significant work to do next week. So I'm going to upload this, and then I'm going to take a little breather, and by breather I mean still work on pod layer stuff, but like, I don't know, probably 34K, working with assembling stuff for the 34K, and then I'll have a night's rest, and then tomorrow, boom, I will begin the push on the Zai'nyy males.